So, welcome to another episode of Today and Tomorrow, the podcast where we explore the forces shaping our future. I'm Alexander Pinker, and as always, I'm very glad to be joined by my fantastic co host, Dieter. Hey, Dieter, how are you?
Hey, my Alex, I know it's tough times, but we are managing it. I'm very happy to have Carina here. I met her, actually, it was only last October that we met for the first time. And she has become a really dear, project partner. We did a few things already, and I'm really happy that I had her in Davos, so to speak. I couldn't go this time, and so she can give us a little update on the biggest trends in Web3 and technology on this very important forum. And we know it's becoming more important than ever.
Before we head in and before we introduce Karina correctly and fully, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Davos just wrapped up. And the discussions there set the stage for what comes in business, technology, and society in the next years. From AI advancements to Web3 to regulatory debates on gender equity in tech, the insights from this year's event, and Dieter, you know it better, Karina, you as well, were more were, and the insights from this year's event were more relevant than ever. And today, as Dieter already said, we're thrilled to have Karina here. Karina, you're a leading voice in the intersection of business, technology, and innovation. You attended also several key events in Davos, including the World Women Foundation Davos agenda, and I'm quite curious what you have to tell, what you experienced. But before we do this, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers as well?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate every kind of invite when I get to share my wisdom and my experiences with the public and with you guys. And thank you so much for the invite. It's like the second time. I really do appreciate that. To all these kind of platforms, encouraging women, giving them the chance to express themselves, to express their thoughts. And yes, well, I'm a tech journalist. That's what I love doing. That's what I've been doing in the past few years. I do live in Switzerland. So definitely when it comes to technology here, you get like a lot of intersection between Web3, AI. You get like a sort of melting pot, like you would say, for example, in New York when it comes to technology. So definitely you get this chance to see a glimpse of everything here. You have a lot of tech events, and of course, when you talk about Davos, it's definitely one of the key leading events here. Uh, Also, to introduce myself a little bit and what I do, as I was saying, I'm a tech journalist. I'm also a podcast producer, and I've been writing for different publications such as the London Financial, and also starting from last year, I'm also a Forbes business development contributor. And I'm also part of Women in Web3 Switzerland, which is one of the biggest leading Web3 communities here in Switzerland, encouraging women with their Web3 projects. And yeah, I've been also working digital marketing for a couple of Swiss companies here already. So definitely, I'm very excited. Also, one of the projects I almost forgot about is sometimes you're working on so many different things that you tend to forget that. That's why sometimes I even like during meetings or anything, I have like my CV in front of me because sometimes I'm like, okay, but I also did that. I also did that. I also. And one of the projects that I'm really proud of, it's definitely producing this successful podcast that is called SciTech Swiss. Before it was SciTech Swiss, now it's SciTech Swiss Lifestyle. And it's basically translated the complexity of technology, like in understandable terms to the public. And where we were interviewing leading experts, tech experts, business experts when it comes to these technologies such as AI, Web3, blockchain. And yeah, that's one of the projects that I'm really proud of.
Well, Alex, you see why I wanted to have this woman on the show because she really knows it all.
Karina, thank you for the introduction. And you were in Davos this year also. And what was the energy like? Tell us a little bit about any standout moments, any key themes that dominated the conversation, anything you experienced there. How was it?
Well, such a wonderful question. I feel like this year it has been, very interesting, but also very chaotic at the same time. When you're going to a lot of people, they don't know about the fact that in Davos, they just know about the World Economic Forum.
Hmm.
About like one of the most important events that it's held like every year, right? But they don't know the fact that in Davos, they have
Hmm.
more than 100 events running at the same time with the World Economic Forum, and they are quite interesting. They also have the AI house, they have like the technology house, they have like the House of Ukraine, the House of Brazil. They have like a mix of everything there. So you're just going, on the street, and you might
Hmm.
also have, you know, you might have like a taste of everything, I would say. And this year I mean, each year I feel like it's different. Last year I think that it was more, each year like the focus is different. For example, this year the focus was more on artificial intelligence and quantum computing. And I like the fact that starting from last year, when I was also one of the panelists at the
Hmm.
Web3 event at the Web3 Hub, I like the fact that I've seen, for example, a lot of great speakers such as Marta Bolkenfeld speaking about quantum computing, about the metaverse, about AI, about different use cases.
Hmm.
And I like the energy. I like to see that women are given more power in terms of expressing themselves. And also this year, that's kind of the same energy that I seen at the quantum at the female quotient event, where I had the chance to also to interview very interesting women. And another project that was also premiering during the World Economic Forum, it's this song that's just debuted this year that is called 195,
Hmm.
and it's one of the biggest songs, like the biggest records, featuring 195 women from all over
Hmm.
the world saying the word equality. So definitely the energy was very much covering these kind of topics and sensitivities, such as gender equality. It's something that's it's still a taboo. I feel like definitely the energy is flowing this year when it
Hmm.
comes to these kind of topics, but I like the fact that it's one of these, it became like the global anthem, and it's bringing visibility to a lot of women from all over the world. And definitely it's such a nice project that was actually by the Frequency School, and I had the opportunity to interview Martina Fuchs. She's a great business journalist, and she's also one of the co-founders alongside Major. He's a famous American rapper, and I like the fact that they recorded this song, and I was also featured. You know, I was one of these 195 women. So
Cool.
definitely, yeah, and it's operating. What is also interesting about this song, that it's operating on these healing frequencies and the frequency of love, to be more precise, which is one of the topics this year, definitely.
Um, Tell us a little bit about the women you talked about. How did women in tech change? How are they? What were your insights after all those talks, about all those meetings, about all those opportunities to talk to those wonderful tech enthusiasts and women all over the globe and participating, especially in this wonderful project? What did you learn?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. I think that we always have something new to learn. That's why I also started reading a lot of books recently. One that I definitely recommend is from Kai Fu Lee, that is called 10 Visions for the Future. I think it's giving you more insights when it comes to artificial intelligence, also quantum computing, and this kind of process of digitalization, where we're getting towards too. And I think that we always have something new to learn from women, whether that you're a journalist, whether that you're creating a project in Web3, whether that you're a teacher. I think that we are definitely learning a lot of things. One of them was definitely, I would say, when I was filming one of these podcast episodes for SciTech Swiss, I was also discussing with fellow journalists, with Ana Maria Montero, that I also say hi on this occasion. We were Yeah, we were just discussing what were our highlights in Davos, all these kind of events. She was also coordinating and moderating a couple of corporate events there. But I feel like the energy of this year was definitely more, this kind of risk that we have on climate change, more precisely. Also, when it comes to adapting and upskilling ourselves, when it comes to AI and what will be the future. Because I think that a lot of people are concerned whether their jobs will be taken away, or whether they will lose their jobs, or whether they will have to learn something new to adapt these new times. And this reminds me very much of the 90s or the 2000s when, for example, our parents, they had to adapt to new technologies such as, I don't know, using the computer, or it definitely looked like very different back then. But even for journalists back then during the 90s was definitely something fascinating. And another topic for this year is definitely um, that's one of the buzzwords that I've been also using, and one of the topics that I've been discussing later, which is fast checking, which I think that it's very, very important. And probably you've seen all over the news that that was something that was removed on Facebook. So definitely that's something that I think that is very important when it comes to journalism. One of the initiatives that I think that it's very important, it's still, for example, TikTok is also collaborating with other organizations to ensure that all the content that is published on their app is totally verified, which is something that I really admire about these platforms, because I think that that's also a huge risk when it comes to spreading misinformations and also with deepfakes. So definitely I admire China when it comes to working a little bit better on the regulations and on the safety here. So definitely those were some of the discussions that we had this year.
You were talking about the change in AI and the risks of deepfakes and everything. Of course, this is a very, very big issue we have to tackle. But to turn it a little bit around, and you talked about our parents, our grandparents, technology is moving so much faster than than it used to be. But what are, in your opinion, as a tech journalist, what are the biggest opportunities you see for businesses, for society, when you look at artificial intelligence and this?
Well, definitely, as it's been also said and it's been discussed at the World Economic Forum, we really will have new jobs by the end of 2030. So definitely, we constantly need to work on ourselves. We definitely need to learn to operate with new software, new programs. I think that AI definitely it's one of the buzzwords of this year. So let's say, as an example, for me as a journalist, I think that AI, when it comes to, for example, let's say editing, it's really also saving time. So I think that it's, instead of seeing technology as your enemy, you need to see technology as your friend, as definitely something that can also help you save time. Um, one of the risks one of the risks is probably when it comes to protecting your data, your information, when you think about, I don't know, healthcare. Um, but one thing that I admire here in Switzerland is that they pretty much are working towards protecting your data to ensure that your data is safe and protected. So I definitely trust that. I trust the process that they're working towards more safety laws, and definitely this is a great step, a positive step.
So, what were you taking along from the Women Forum? Because I saw you were attending a couple of them, and I understood that the vibes there were very good.
They have a lot of events there, like the female quotient, for example. Then, of course, they also had the World Women event, where they had, I also attended that one. Um, but I had like a lot of events running at the same time. So definitely some of the topics were also business related. And they were also sharing a lot of interesting insights when it comes to the African continent, like a lot of interesting partnerships, and also interesting projects, I would say, and not just Web3 related or technology related, but definitely they were interesting. But one of the events that I would say that it's my favorite, it's definitely the female quotient. I think that it's definitely bringing more visibility, and I like the fact that there were a lot of women there in the panel. And I like the fact that we are also working not just, I mean, they're just working on meaningful conversations. And I think that technology is just empowering these kind of conversations. That's my take on that.
But after all the insights you had now, and after you saw all the change, especially looking at the previous years and nowadays, what do you think? Where will the scene, where will the industry develop in the next years? What could be the next trends? What would you wish for to see in Davos next year or the year afterwards? So, what do you think would be wonderful technology trends, but also wonderful developments in women in tech as well, for example? What would be the next steps in your opinion as an expert?
That's a very interesting question. I would say that definitely, as a prediction, I think that they're working more on providing more safety laws. And as I was saying, I think that, I mean, this kind of technology is evolving very fast. So definitely, as a journalist, I will reflect more on fast checking. So definitely ensuring that everything that we publish online, because I think that all of the trends are maybe focused a little bit less on the editorial side, but they are more focused on producing, let's say, podcasts, producing more content. And before it was definitely more challenging to edit one of these videos. But one of the most interesting interviews that I had, for example, when I interviewed a company that is established in the US that it's called Typing DNA, one of the most interesting trends for me was, for example, being able to work with this software that it's against like fraud detection, that it's for fraud detection, that it's really important to it's like one of the most interesting use cases involving AI, where you can ensure that, for example, I will just restart with the answer. Because, yeah, exactly. So as I was saying, that's a very interesting question, and definitely one of the buzzwords of this year is AI. But it makes me reflect on one of the interviews that I had, I believe it was last year, when I interviewed one of these companies operating in the US that is called Typing DNA. And it's definitely for fraud detection. And they're working on really interesting use cases. And for them, they were also discussing about one of these challenges. For example, when you're exposing your content online, this can also be really challenging, especially when you also have a kid, right? So I will be more concerned on this kind of safety matter. And now we know that with the deep fakes, like it's very easy to produce a video and to spread it online. So it's definitely, I would say, easier now with AI. So definitely some of the trends, also by reading this book that I mentioned before, it will be definitely more challenging to detect whether these videos are, the verity of these videos. And also another interesting use case that I also mentioned during other podcast interviews is this platform that it's called Verity News. So it's more focused on news polarization, but it's also working with machine learning. It's operating on machine learning. So where you have multiple news and where you can see both sides. So definitely with AI, I believe that's also one of the use cases that it's also beneficial for us, where you can see, okay, that's how it can really help us, and it's not just a scary machine, or it's a technology that it's complex and that we don't understand. So definitely my trends or my predictions are definitely hopefully more safety laws, but at the same time also another conversation that I had that it was very interesting for me was with the managing director from Microsoft that that was saying his idea about AI was definitely that we'll have Copilot installed and will operate, will work with AI without knowing that we actually operate with AI and with content.
Well, that's definitely one of the things that AI will move in the background. We will not realize what it is. But I want to move to another issue. You were talking about safety laws and fact checking, but definitely it's very important. On the other hand, we have a huge trend right now globally on deregulation because, on the other hand, bureaucracy has become way too strong. But in a way, it's one thing is contradicting the other. So, what's your perspective on it? How can it be handled? And more important, how was it discussed in Davos?
Concept. I would say that in Davos they have like different kind of events, so they had like different kind of perspectives. That was not like one of the concepts that I've seen like broadly. They focus on different kind of areas where they were like more narrowing down more specific, let's say on business or on other use cases. But my take on this one, um, it's definitely that, as I was saying before, as I mentioned, fast checking, it's like one of the safest way where you can ensure that content or any kind of everything that you publish online, it's verified. And here I also, one of the questions that I had was also towards TikTok, that it's one of the a platform used by millions of people, right? Where it's not just an entertaining platform; it's more than that. It's also a business platform where people were almost losing their jobs. So definitely when it comes to TikTok, one of the things that I found out is that if you have a political party or if you're involved with politics, you can really make money out of TikTok. So definitely they're working on more safety laws to ensure that, working with different organizations to ensure that the content it's accurate or it's verified. Or for example, when you're posting something on Instagram, you have the AI label. So that's definitely something positive, I will say, when utilizing these technologies.
Wonderful. You were talking about, or we were talking about security. We were talking a lot about AI, but you have another big topic as well. Let's talk a little bit about decentralization and Web3. And especially Web3 has been a buzzword for a while, but opinions also, like in AI, vary widely on where it's headed. And what do you think? What should we look at this technology or those possibilities, and where is the future developing in this section?
Well, definitely also Web3 as a kind of technology is very complex, and I see the great potential of utilizing this kind of technology, especially here in Zug, that it's considered the heart of crypto, the heart of Crypto Valley. And I like the fact that there are more women involved. There are more women involved in their learning, definitely a lot of new skills also when it comes to coding, also when it comes to building a lot of interesting projects on Web3. But me as a journalist, definitely I see it as a huge potential. For example, like these kind of platforms like NFT Now or Decrypt, where you will be able to publish your own content and also to monetize your content as a journalist, because that's also one of the great sides of decentralization, right? Where there's no third party, there's no one interfering, but it's just you being in full control of your project. So that's definitely one of the intakes. Another one, it's definitely the intersection between Web3 and AI. So definitely one of the use cases that I've seen building that it's also very interesting. It's the intersection between Web3, AI, or let's say building these interesting NFTs. And they have a lot of interesting events. Last year I've been at the NFT at I believe it was the NFT Fest. No, the NFT Fest was in Lugano, and well, we'll cut this one because I don't remember the event. I've been to so many. Yes. Okay, perfect. Um, but definitely, I see a lot of potential when it comes to the intersection between these kind of technologies such as Web3 and AI. And I've seen also when it comes to some of the platforms and some of some of the interesting projects that I've seen is, for example, when I also interviewed Ficas. That's one of the interviews that I published on Scitech Swiss, where they were really talking about this intersection between Web3 and AI. And also, I had the chance to interview different other companies where they were really discussing, sorry, where they were really discussing about this potential of utilizing these kind of technologies. And now the trend is, for example, when you're trading or when you have like your projects, you have the possibility of utilizing AI, and then you can ask more questions and someone can really assist you with this kind of process. So that was, for example, there are different schooling platforms. That's one of the use cases that I've seen. But I think that they're still working on new projects when it comes to Web3 and AI.
But now it's getting interesting. If those technologies get interwebbed, so they fuse together a little bit, and with the things you said before, that AI will step a little bit into background. So we will in the future, for example, have a lot of Web3, we will have a lot of blockchain, we will have a lot of AI, but most of the people will never know they have. So we're talking a little bit about shy tech. So technology will step back and will evolve, but not like now. We will not talk about NFTs. We will not talk about blockchain. We will not talk about crypto or AI or Gen AI and Copilot and so on, but it will just be here. Do you think this is a possibility that will come to mind, or is this a possibility that will happen? Okay, sorry, I started over again. You talk about that AI and blockchain will or Web3 and decentralized will merge a little bit together. In the some minutes back, we talked about that technology, especially AI, will not be present as it is by now and will be a byproduct. So it will be in the background a little bit, but we can't see it anymore. Yeah. So do you think a possible scenario is that we will have a lot of developments in blockchain, in crypto, in AI, but most of the people will never know?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Well, as I mentioned before, that's also one of the interesting conversations that I had, for example, with Rene, that it's a managing director here at Cloud Azul at Microsoft here in Switzerland. And I was really asking, because that's also one of the questions that I get asked as a journalist: what will happen in the future? What will be in the next 2 years, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? And I think it's very hard to predict because we are still working on Web3, right? But they are still, and then you have, for example, digital artists mentioning Web4, but we are still operating on Web2, Web 2.5. So definitely I think that we need to reflect, first of all, on upskilling ourselves on the education and of what we know and how to really utilize those platforms. And I think, as I mentioned before, there are different platforms where you can also publish your content, such as Mirror or such as Decrypt or NFT Now. Those are just some examples as a content creator potentially, and where you could also mint your NFTs or create, for example, your content or publish your, let's say, your articles, such as people are publishing nowadays on Medium, for example. That's also a great scenario. But I think it's very hard to predict. It's also one of the concepts that it's in this book, because a lot of people are probably reimagining technology, such as this movie The Matrix, during the 90s. So it's definitely hard to predict what will happen in the future, because technology is developing very fast. And now we also had ChatGPT, we also have DeepSeek. So I think that will definitely I mean, even now, people are not fully aware of the complexity of these technologies that they are using. If you're asking one of, the members of your family, will probably never be fully aware that he's using AI. So,
Well, I think the easier you can access the technology, the less you realize that you are interacting with technology, the easier it is to get people to use it and to So when we were talking about what my topic is, innovation resilience, how we make ourselves ready to cope with these huge huge wave of innovation that is still accelerating and will change our society tremendously. Invisible or not sensible technology will be one of the factors that probably will help it to adapt to it. But on the other hand, when we're talking about some monetization issues, what we all see, because it gets so easy to publish books, to make movies, to do whatever. Also, of course, the competition increases tremendously. So, so things I could make money with very easily once I got into the channel in the past. Now everybody is in the channel, and it's much more difficult to get my product visible. So I think this will be one of the huge challenges of the future, because there's so much really bad stuff out there. It's flooding, just AI generated stuff, unmoderated. So really bad stuff, unimportant stuff, and that makes more meaningful content um, almost invisible. So how can we deal with that? And this is Alex, my last question.
That my take on that is that technology is very complex, so it's it's changing in every moment. But definitely, I think that education is probably the word. That's something that I will encourage. As I was mentioning before about a way to, I don't know, way to monetize is definitely in the future will be like tokenization, being able to also what we've seen like tokenizing digital assets, or we have, for example, this word that was first coined in the 2007, I think it was, digital assets. That's also one of the concepts that I was discussing about last year in Davos. So where definitely you you are building more than just a product. You're also working on your community. That is also at the main core of Web3. So you will not just sell products, but you're also going to sell emotions. That's also something that we learned from marketing, right? So definitely they're also debating that the creative jobs, they will be taken away by technology. But I think that behind every smart machine, behind every kind of machine, there's a human brain. So definitely, my take is definitely the fact that we will just evolve as we evolve, like with with the computers, with Apple, that has like a huge history behind. And also AI, I mean, what is really fascinating to me is the fact that they just brought up the term 1 year ago or 2 years ago, but they were working on artificial intelligence way back, like starting from the 50s, from the 60s. So it's a very old concept, of course. And it was also tested. One of the first use cases was definitely in the art area, involving the movie production. When you're working on, let's say, special effects, or when you're working on um, modifying your voice, so in the editing side.
To be honest, it would be a nice final word, but I have a last question for you. We talked about so many issues, Karina, and finally, for our listeners, for business leaders, for policymakers, we talked about a lot of those issues turning in. What is the one key message you'd like to take them away from your Davos experience, but more importantly, from your experience overall? What would you like to tell them and change, maybe?
Well, I think that we all together have the power to really change the world. And I like the fact that, and that's also what I've been seeing lately, the fact that we're amplifying each other's voice as a community. And it's so nice to see that there are a lot of women in tech. And I like the fact that um, they are supporting each other, and we have these huge communities such as the women in Web3 in Switzerland. My final message will probably be never stop learning, because I mean technology, and even people are biased sometimes, not just technology, and just by training these machines, it's exactly the same process how we have to train ourselves. It's the amount of information that you're feeding to your machine, and it's the same concept with us. I think that's probably the one of the core messages. And for people that are, I don't know, content creators, just to get out there, just to never really be scared to start with something, even when it comes like to starting small, when it comes to creating their own content, and also to embrace technology. I would say, whether that you're talking about cryptocurrencies, whether that you're talking about artificial intelligence, those are just, I think that this is just the beginning, and we are definitely going to have more powerful technologies along the way.
Well, Karina, you really this was really a very intense episode, and and great. So and there's so much more I could ask you, or I could comment, but I think we leave like for instance. What is the future of creativity? How will our creative work develop? But I think we leave that for another episode. We do sometime in the future. And yeah, thank you, Karina. I think it was a very enlightening episode.
Carina, as well from me, that was absolutely fascinating. It was a fascinating conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights from Davos, your thoughts on AI, on Web3, and especially on women in tech and where we are heading. Um, Thanks a lot. Thank you for your time, especially.
No, thank you guys, thank you for being such a great host. And yeah, I'm really curious to see also other episodes from your podcast, and I will definitely also share the link from.
Thank you very much. And to you, our listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us on all the social media channels we have. Thank you, especially Dieter, again, for being a wonderful co host, as always.
I give that back to you, Alex.
And to everyone, Karina, thank you. Thank you to all of you. We will see or hear each other in the next time on Today and Tomorrow. From my side, the final words. It was a pleasure. See you next time, and goodbye.